जय गोपीजनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 12, entitled Birth of Emperor Parikshit, text 29. Iti Rajnya Upadishya Vipra Jataka Kovida Labdha Pachitaya Sarve Prati Jagmu Swakangrihan Iti Rajnya Upadishya विप्राजातककोविदः लब्धापचितयत् सर्वे प्रतिजग्मु स्वकान् गृहान् इति राज्ञ उपादिश्य विप्रजातककोविदः लब्धापचितयत् सर्वे प्रतिजग्मु स्वकान् गृहान् इति राज्ञा उपादिश्य जातककोविदा प्रतिजग्मु स्वकान् गृहान् इति राज्ञा उपादिश्य विप्रजातककोविदा लब्ध्वापचितय सर्वे उपादिश्य जातककोविदा प्रतिजग्मु स्वकान् माताजी इति राज्ञा उपादिश्य जातककोविदा Iti, thus, Rajne, unto the king, Upadishya, having advised, Vipraha, persons well versed in the Vedas, Jataka Kovidaha, persons expert in astrology and in the performance of birth ceremonies. Labdha apachitayah, those who had received sumptuously as remuneration. Sarve, all of them. Prati Jagmu, went back. Swakan, their own. Grihan, houses. Translation. Thus, those who were expert in astrological knowledge and in performance of the birth ceremony instructed King Yudhishthir about the future history of his child. Then, being sumptuously remunerated, they all returned to their respective homes. Purport. By His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Vedas are the storehouse of knowledge, both material and spiritual. But such knowledge aims at perfection of self-realization. In other words, the Vedas are the guides for the civilized man in every respect. Since human life is the opportunity to get free from all material miseries, it is properly guided by the knowledge of the Vedas in the matters of both material and spiritual salvation. The specific intelligent class of men who were devoted particularly to the knowledge of the Vedas were called the Vipras, or the graduates of the Vedic knowledge. There are different branches of knowledge in the Vedas, of which astrology and pathology are two important branches necessary for the common man. So the intelligent men, generally known as the Brahmanas, took up all the different branches of Vedic knowledge to guide society. Even the department of military education, Dhanurveda, was also taken up by such intelligent men. And the Vipras were also teachers of this section of knowledge, as were Dronacharya, Kripacharya, etc. The word Vipra mentioned herein is significant. There is a little difference between the Vipras and the Brahmanas. The Vipras are those who are expert in karma kanda or fruitive activities guiding the society towards fulfilling the material necessities of life, whereas the Brahmanas are expert in spiritual knowledge of transcendence. This department of knowledge is called Jnana Kand, and above this there is the Upasana Kand. The culmination of Upasana Kand is the devotional service of the Lord Vishnu, and when the Brahmanas achieve perfection, they are called Vaishnavas. Vishnu worship is the highest of the modes of worship. Elevated Brahmanas are Vaishnavas engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And thus, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the science of devotional service, is very dear to the Vaishnavas. And as explained in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is the mature fruit of Vedic knowledge and is superior subject matter above the three kandas, namely Karma, Jnana, and Upasana. Among the Karma Kand experts, the Jataka expert Vipras were good astrologers who could tell all the future history of a born child simply by the astral calculations of the time, Lagna. Such expert Jataka Vipras were present during the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, and his grandfather Maharaj Yudhishthir awarded the Vipras sufficiently with gold, land, villages, grains, and other valuable necessities of life, which also include cows. There is a need of such Vipras in the social structure, and it is the duty of the state to maintain them comfortably as designed in the Vedic procedure. Such expert Vipras, being sufficiently paid by the state, could give free service to the people in general, and thus this department of Vedic knowledge could be available for all. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nama om vishnupadaya krishna prasthaya bhutale shrimate bhaktivedanta swami niti namine namaste saraswati deve gauravani pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatya Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thus, those who were expert in astrological knowledge and in performance of the birth ceremony instructed King Yudhishthir about the future history of his child. Then, being sumptuously remunerated, they all returned to their respective homes. Hare Krishna. So I seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, my worshipable senior God brothers, all the devotees who are watching online, my father and Srila Gurudev and Shri Radha Gopinath before starting on this topic. So this is one of those joyous occasions in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is full of a lot of stories where there's a lot of pressure built up, devotees coming under all kinds of difficult situations. But this is a small joyous passage of the Srimad Bhagavatam wherein, Yudhishthir Maharaj has been crowned the king. This chapter talks about what kind of opulence Yudhishthir Maharaj had. And even the denizens of heavenly planets, they were amazed by seeing the opulence that Yudhishthir Maharaj had. And because he was Dharmaraj, because he was living his life, ruling his kingdom as per the principles of Dharma, as per the desire of Lord Krishna, therefore it was amazing opulence. And then the son of Abhimanyu, the grandson of Arjun, Parikshit, was born. At a very auspicious time he was born. And then it is described that Yudhishthir Maharaj, he gave away so much charity, unlimited amount of charity, because he knew that those who are knowing dharma, they know dharma, they understand what is the value of dharma. They don't need to be told, that, okay, this is auspicious occasion, now you give charity. This is a good time, now you give charity. We need to be told, Janmashtami is coming, please give something, right? But otherwise, those who are like this, they are unko to bas bahana chahiye to give. They want to give like that. So he gave profusely in charity. And at that time, there were various astrologers, as it is described over here, and they were describing the qualities of the son who is born. So it's very interesting. No, everyone finds astrology very fascinating, right? ये तो सबका है बचपन से. We're all very fascinated by astrology. Someone can tell the future, what's going to happen. Tell me. I still remember in college when we used to go to college, and in college someone said कि मेरे को हाथ पढ़ना आता. तो everyone would immediately, मेरा हाथ पढ़ना. Right? Immediately everyone would offer their hands कि please read my future. So it's a fascinating subject. So we'll try and talk a little bit about this purport that Srila Prabhupada gives. Actually, so many different themes are there in it. So I have picked only 2 out of the many gems that Prabhupada has just, liberally strewn in the purport. I'll just pick 2. So the first thing we can, just pick from here is about the Vedas, right? Nowadays there is this so-called revival that is happening, Sanatan revival, which is all over the social media. Everyone talks about it. Be proud of your scripture. Be proud of your scripture. Be proud of your culture. सब लोग बोलते हैं ना, आपने देखा होगा कहीं ना कहीं तो you would have seen it. Everyone says this and everyone likes, shares, comments, but no one really knows what is their culture. No one really knows what is contained in these Vedas. ये Vedas हम लोग को पूछो 4 नाम बताओ वेदा के, हम बड़े प्राइड से बोलते हैं मुझे पता है 4 नाम, फट विल से, राइट? बट व्हाट इज इन द वेदास भाई वो तो आप किसी और, वो हमारे मंदिर में बहुत अच्छे ब्रह्मचारी, उनको पूछो, राइट? सो actually we don't know really, and we don't know, and therefore we don't know the value of what is there inside. It is unbelievable, right? Like Prabhupada has said in many places that these Vedas are the perfect source of all information. There's all information. It has comprehensive information for all human beings, so whatever you need to conduct your life, अपना जीवन व्यतीत करने के लिए हमें जो भी चाहिए सब कुछ है उसमें. Everything is there in these Vedas. So, Srimad Bhagavatam in 10.45, the Bhagavatam 45th chapter of 10th canto, where Krishna goes for his education. Krishna and Balram go for their education to Ujjain in Sandipani Muni's ashram. So there it is mentioned that in 64 days, Krishna learnt 64 arts. Before that, there are other things also that I mentioned, that what all Krishna mastered in those 64 days. Right? So those 64 arts, it is mentioned in 10th canto, 45th chapter, verse 34 to 36. You just read the purports. It is quite, मतलब वो देख के किसी को चक्कर आएगा, it is like quite amazing what all things are included in Vedic education, right? So the Vedas help us to be educated, E for educated, help us to be entertained, E for entertained, they help us to be enriched. सबको सुनना है ना, how to help us to be enriched, and finally they help us to be enlightened and emancipated, liberated also. मतलब सब है उसमें, everything is there. So educated, there is like just now it's mentioned the purport Dhanur Vidya. Then it's thought that Krishna learnt law. Nowadays there's a big trend, no? A lot of youngsters want to learn law, right? बहुत सारे लोग law में जा रहे. So Krishna learnt law also. Then logic, different types of tarka, vitarka, different types of logic is also there. Then politics, how to govern people. Not today's politics, not the divide and rule politics. How to govern people in such a way that they feel inspired to contribute to the, to the kingdom. So education, entertainment. So even the Vedas understand that entertainment to chahiye bhai. Human beings ne to aise, will not be able to, we need something to keep us enthused, to keep us energized and doing various things. So there is mention about singing, dancing, instruments, jugglery. Jugglery. Krishna learned jugglery also. Right? It is mentioned over there. Then magic, sleight of hand, aisa haath se kuch karna, magic, puppets, dramas. Can you imagine? All this is there in our Vedic knowledge. So entertainment, education, entertainment. How to be enriched. So many different professions are mentioned. So amongst those 64 arts, cooking. Cooking, right? Nowadays, everyone wants to become a cook. There is this concept of cloud kitchen, and everywhere, her kone pe there are now restaurants, because that is the biggest business. Everyone likes to eat. So restaurants, cooking, carpentry, architecture, metallurgy, so many different things. Imagine, metallurgy is what? Anyone knows what is metallurgy? Metallurgy is study of how to prepare metals. जो अभी बड़े बड़े टाटा स्टील, JSW, ये सब बड़े बड़े कंपनीज में जो स्टील बनता है ना, स्टील, आयरन, अपना कॉपर, ऑल दिस एल्यूमिनियम, ऑल दिस कंपनीज विच मेक ऑन बिग स्केल, दैट इज थ्रू द साइंस ऑफ मेटलर्जी. वो ओर जो रहता है, मेटल ओर रहता है, उसमें से एक्सट्रैक्ट करके एट वेरी हाई हीट, वेरी हाई प्रेशर, दैट मेटल इज एक्सट्रैक्टेड. Metallurgy existed at the time of Krishna, and he's been taught it, means uske bahut pehle, when it's been around forever, because the Vedas are been there forever. This knowledge is there in the Vedas. He was taught one of the arts, right? And finally, of course, the Vedas, Vedescha sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. The whole purpose of Vedas ultimately is so that we can be enlightened, that all these things that we are teaching you, they're all on material platform. Rise above it and get out of cycle of birth and death. So everything is contained in these Vedas. But now one may ask, कि इतना सारा जो information है, हमें कैसे पता चलेगा? How we will, because the aam admi, the common person, doesn't understand Sanskrit. Even the extraordinary person doesn't understand Sanskrit today, because it is like what the, the few days back on WhatsApp University, there was one message that was circulating about the fact that if a census person comes to your house and they ask which languages you know, please mention Sanskrit. Anyone seen that? Right? So, please mention Sanskrit. Why? Because otherwise it will be declared as a dying language, and it will, मतलब उसको कोई funding नहीं मिलेगा. So people don't understand Sanskrit. And therefore, this knowledge, how do you get access to it? By the grace of Srila Prabhupada and his disciples, many of these books have been translated now into English, Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, Bengali, Oriya, everything. So much knowledge is available. But earlier it was not there. So therefore, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the intelligent men, generally known as the Brahmanas, they took up the different branches of Vedic knowledge and they guided society with it. So, because क्या है कि कोई एक व्यक्ति को उसमें जाके खुद से पढ़ना is not possible. Even today, okay? So, anyone over here who is in engineering, computer science, chartered accountant, anyone over here? Commerce, arts, science, there are many, right? Different fields. So, you imagine if suppose I say computer science, आजकल सबको कंप्यूटर साइंस में जाना होता है, राइट? इंजीनियर्स को सबको कंप्यूटर साइंस करना है. अभी कंप्यूटर साइंस, देयर मस्ट बी सम स्टैंडर्ड टेक्स्ट बुक्स. वो टेक्स्ट बुक पढ़ के कोई इंजीनियर बना है क्या आज तक? सिर्फ टेक्स्ट बुक पढ़ के, वेरी रेयर, राइट? You have to be genius. You have to be really gifted by the Lord. You need someone to teach. Who is that person who's teaching? Who has himself learnt or herself learnt from another teacher and has practiced and therefore is able to teach, right? We all know how difficult it is to learn from a person who has only learnt but never practiced. Right? हम सबको मालूम है कि जिसने कभी प्रैक्टिस ही नहीं किया है उनसे सीखना बड़ा कठिन होता है. बट इफ यू हैव प्रैक्टिस यू कैन लर्न बेटर फ्रॉम दैट पर्सन बिकॉज दे गिव प्रैक्टिकल एग्जांपल्स. अरे ऐसे क्या, ऐसे नहीं करने का, डोंट डू लाइक, यू डू लाइक दिस, इट विल ऑल क्रैश, बराबर नहीं चलेगा. सो वी नीड समवन हु हैज प्रैक्टिस्ड. So these Brahmanas, they were the people who would pick up one branch. Either they would be having expertise across all, or as it is described here, certain Vipra who were expert in one. They were good in all, but they were expert in one. बोलते हैं jack of all trades, master of नहीं थे वो लोग. They were jack of all trades and master of one. So like that they would do. So it is described that the specific intelligent class of men who were devoted particularly to the knowledge of Vedas were called the Vipras, or the graduates of Vedic knowledge. मतलब Vedas में graduate किया है. ये कोई साधारण बात नहीं है. It is not an ordinary thing, right? We feel that अरे क्या होगा उसमें. No, we just discussed 64 branches of knowledge. अरे बाबा, वो सीखने के लिए भी कोई एक level चाहिए, right? So they were like that. And Prabhupada says that these Vipras, okay, and he distinguishes between what is Vipra and what is Brahmana. I'll come to that. They were expert in what is called Karma Kand. Karma Kand matlab kya? What are the things that are needed to meet your material necessities, to fulfill the material necessities of life, whatever is needed? That is what was taught by the Vipras. Whereas the Brahmanas, which is a slightly different category of Brahmanas. So one is the Vipras. Brahmanas were called Vipras, and there were some who were just called Brahmanas. These people, they were expert in spiritual knowledge of transcendence. Transcendence means what? Transcend means to rise above. If we are only stuck in the material world, we are only thinking about this education, entertainment and enrichment. अपना life का सिर्फ यही. If this is the only purpose of our life, I want to become educated, I want to become enriched, and I want to be entertained. If that is all the purpose of our life is, we will never rise to the point of enlightenment and, emancipation, liberation. We'll never get to that point. So they would educate on how to transcend, rise above these things. Being in the material world, how to be in the world but not of the world, like that. They would educate. Now the interesting point that is mentioned, that's the first main point I just wanted to spend a few minutes, that these Vipras were richly maintained by the king. We heard the word sumptuously maintained. Sumptuous, in what context we use sumptuous? खाने के मामले में sumptuous meal. मतलब अगर खाली एक रोटी एक सब्जी मतलब कुछ अच्छा लगा, लेकिन उसके साथ दाल होता, उसके साथ कुछ पकोड़ा होता, उसके साथ कुछ चटनी भी होती, छाछ भी होता, 2-3 स्वीट भी होते, तो उसे कहते हैं sumptuous, right? So here that word is being used that the king was maintaining the Vipras sumptuously, right? Very richly they were maintained. Meaning what? They never felt the need. उनको ऐसी कभी जरूरत पड़ी ही नहीं कि मुझे अरे यार कुछ I have to struggle. The Vipras, and therefore because they were so well maintained, they were expert in this and they were so well maintained, therefore they never felt the need to beg. They never, so they would freely offer this service. They would be giving astrology service for free. So Prabhupada mentions in some of his purports, he says that it was very nice that you're connected with one Brahmana. That same Brahmana would be astrologer. At that time, कोई घर में अभी शादी हो रही है तो astrologer. बच्चा पैदा हो नहीं रहा है तो astrologer. बच्चा पैदा हो गया तो astrologer. बच्चा बड़ा हो गया कुछ कर नहीं रहा है तो astrologer. बहुत ज्यादा कर रहे हैं तो आगे क्या होगा वो भी astrologer. So astrologer would be there in all stages of life. Same person would also function as priest. So for all the different samskaras which are there, garbhadan samskar going all the way up to anteshti, all the different samskaras that are there would be performed by the family priest. Same person. Same person would also be like teacher. He would also teach. So, and also Prabhupada also mentions same person would also be physician. So even Ayurveda, even the knowledge of Ayurveda would be there with these people. So they would, मतलब घर पे बैठे बैठे एक व्यक्ति आपको सब कुछ दे रहा है. And he is not charging you anything. Can you imagine? आज के तारे में कोई डॉक्टर के पास जाएंगे, जाने के लिए डर लगता है पहले ही. People hesitate to go to doctor nowadays. I hope there are not too many doctors here. I know one doctor is translating downstairs, but all glories to him. But people hesitate to go to doctors now because जाएगा तो पहला तो ऐसा हमको ऐसा स्माइल करने के लिए 1000 रुपया देना पड़ेगा. ऐसे मिलेगा ना तो कैसे हो प्रभु, how are you? And you're like I'm fine, I'm 1000 rupees poorer already. अभी पता नहीं क्या टेस्ट करने को बोलेगा, क्या दवाई लिख के देगा, क्या मालूम, right? Imagine doctor comes to your house and he's free, doesn't charge you anything, right? Same person does all the yajnas that you need. You provide samagri, he will do everything. No money, no dakshina, nothing. You want to give, you give. It's your wish. But he doesn't expect anything. What a high class of Brahmanas this must be. Just imagine. Because they are not dependent on anybody. They are depending on Supreme Lord. They are not even dependent on the king. While the king is giving, see, this is the Vedic society. This is the grace and the amazing arrangement of Vedic society, that the king would provide for the Brahmanas. But the Brahmanas did not depend. And because they did not depend on the king, they could tell the truth. See, if you're depending ki yaar जिस थाली में खाया उसी थाली में छेद कैसे करूं, how I can tell anything to this person? No, they would speak the truth because they were fearless. They are depending on Krishna. They're not depending on the kings. They know that ultimately maintainer is Krishna. In one of the purports of Srila Prabhupada, in one of the future cantos, there's a beautiful statement. I don't remember the exact words, but it says that your maintenance does not come from your earning. We feel, मैं जो पैसे कमा रहा हूं, मेहनत करके मैं जो पैसे कमा रहा हूं, उसी से मेरा गुजारा हो जाता है, right? That's what we feel. But no, the source of our earning is not the source of our maintenance. It is the Supreme Lord who is our maintainer. Because we know that there are many people who earn good money, but they can't enjoy, they can't eat because they're sick. Digestion nahi hai, kha nahi sakte. I'll tell one story. I'll not name, but I'll just tell one story. One very, very rich industrialist, extremely powerful rich industrialist. Okay. Now this person, one of our devotees, their family friend knew this person. So he had gone to meet him. And it was around lunchtime. Right? It was around lunchtime. So he went to meet. And at that time, when he went to meet, that person told, Aja, very good, Aja. Yeah, so this person said, he came. He said, ek kaam kar, mera dabba hai na, wo tu kha le. He gave him his dabba, and he told his, his office people, मेरे लिए अच्छा अच्छा सब डोसा, ऐसा चीज डोसा वगैरह जो भी है लेके आओ, अच्छा चीज लेके आओ. And he told him, you eat this dabba. Why? Because that dabba was like very simple sattvic food जो घर से आया था, उसको वो नहीं खाना था. He wanted to eat the rich food, so he made this person eat that food, right? So you have to understand that, ये ऐसे होता है. This is how life is. That we may feel that I am very rich, I'll do what I like. But sometimes, wife prevails. She says, no, tumhe ye khana hai. So like that. So they were not dependent on the king. The king would support them, but they were not dependent. They would guide the king. They would guide the Vaishyas. They would guide the Shudras that how to live your life. They would teach. That's it. And because they were teaching so nicely, out of gratitude, the Vaishyas would give, they would give some, dakshina. The Shudras would give some dakshina. The king would give dakshina, so that they are profusely maintained and they don't have to depend on anyone. This was the system. Unfortunately, what happened? Because the Brahmanas at some point, they got corrupted. Kings lost faith in the Brahmanas. They stopped maintaining them. Then they looked towards the Vaishyas. Vaishyas also didn't maintain them. So then the Brahmanas were left with nothing. Who will maintain them? So then they got into professions, or they made what they are doing into a profession, right? So now you go to astrologer. Of course, still in astrology, still there is like a unwritten rule that they have in that community, that they don't take money. They don't say, I'll charge you 500 rupees or 1000 rupees or 2000 rupees. You come and give me your horoscope. They say, whatever you want to give, you give. You don't want to give, that's also all right. It's like an unwritten rule. But you know that there are so many challenges. So these people, even if they were not maintained in those days, even if they were not maintained, they would not take up any occupation. A Brahmana would never say that, acha chalo yaar, kuch jam nahi raha hai, chalo yaar, computer science seekhte hain. No, he would beg. He would go door to door with asking for bhiksha. If someone gives, good. Today nobody gave, I'll be hungry. Not just I, my family also will be hungry. Because they were not in the habit like today how we hoard. हम लोग सब ऐसा स्टॉक करके रखते हैं. डीमार्ट में सस्ता मिल रहा है, चलो 5 किलो ले लो. नहीं, they would not. They would live by the day. जो आज भगवान ने दिया बस उसी में गुजारा. If Lord has given in abundance, very good. With that little bit we will procure and we will buy. That is how they used to live. If they didn't get, they would beg for their sustenance. Or they would just continue to serve, and at some point, if the person who's receiving the teaching, who's receiving the service, felt inspired to give dakshina, they would give. They didn't give, they didn't give. Right? We see the story of Dronacharya, how poor he was. The greatest teacher of martial arts in the history of humanity. He was living like a beggar. Right? His son, he wanted to give him milk, but he couldn't even afford to give him milk. He didn't even have a cow to give milk. So poor. That person then becomes a pivotal figure in the entire Mahabharata going forward. Right? So imagine what expertise he had, but still because koi grahak nahi hai uska, so he had to live like that. Right? So this is the situation. But so therefore this Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada's purports, you have to understand, they teach us a way of running society. Society कैसे चलना चाहिए, इससे हम लोग सीख सकते हैं. We are actually very far removed from all this today. Today, if you see, there is no concept of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. It's like sab mishrit hai, Mishra. We're all Mishra. Right? We're all mixed today. But yeah, it was very beautiful. And the contribution of the state, meaning the king or whatever, in education is very important. We have ignored it for far too long, right? But you have to understand that, the teachers, and the astrologers, the teachers today, if you see, the most poorly paid profession is teachers, school teachers. I can very honestly, if I put my hand on my heart and say, I am what I am today because of my school teachers. Not so much because of what I learnt in engineering or MBA. That got me a job, but what I use in my job is what I learned in school. The ability to speak came in school. So, and those teachers are paid a pittance, nothing they get. So, teaching today is social service. Someone realized it. That's why they made Byju's and they made this and that and so many, because they're saying that you can make money here. Because those who feel that, I want to educate, I want better quality education, I'll pay for it. So now people are fully milking it. But still, the school teachers, the college teachers, university teachers, pure social service. Because they're not paid. You look at the astrologers, look at the priests. जो temples में हम लोग, sometimes when you go to temples, we get annoyed when someone keeps coming to you, अरे कुछ दान दो ना, कुछ दान दो ना, कुछ पूजा कराओ ना, पूजा कराओ ना. Why they are coming? Because no one is maintaining them. The government, instead of maintaining temples today, what is the government doing? It is living off temples. It is taking money from temples. Right? Many states it is like that. Very unfortunate, right? So, because such a state of affairs is there, they don't know when their next meal is going to come from, and they know that पुराने जमाने का श्रद्धा तो है नहीं भाई. पहले कैसे हर in each stage of life, people would go to the priest and get some, vidhi done, and they would give something. Today nothing. खाली birth के लिए थोड़ा कुछ astrologer को consult किया, फिर अंत्येष्टि डायरेक्ट, चलो हरे कृष्णा, डायरेक्ट अंत्येष्टि में आके कुछ मंत्र बोल के जाओ. That is what the state of our society has become today. No one cares. So therefore, they are so poorly paid, and that is why the society is in the shambles which it is today. Because the people who shape humanity, teachers, are poorly paid. They don't know कि भाई कैसा गुजारा होगा. So therefore, the people, you imagine those who are shaping the children from their childhood, if they are frustrated, what impact they can create on the children. Still they are doing it. That is, you have to really appreciate that what teachers are doing. Right? So therefore, one of the things for us to think about is that as those who are giving us this knowledge, right, they are actually Brahmanas. Though we may not see them that way, sometimes, children get very irritated with their teachers, right? But you have to understand, they are Brahmanas. They're truly Brahmanas because they are not being reimbursed much, but they're giving us knowledge which is going to be the foundation for our life. The जीवन का नींव बनने वाला है वो. Right? So this is one aspect I wanted to discuss. The other aspect is about astrology itself. Okay, so this is a very fascinating thing, astrology. If you see, our Shastra is full of examples of astrologers. Bhar ke. So you may feel कि astrology क्या है? Like, I was talking to one devotee downstairs. She said, controversial topic, astrology, because devotees are always not very sure कि astrologer के पास जाने का कि नहीं जाने का, or shall I just accept what Krishna has given to me? So we'll try and touch upon some of these things in our discussion, remaining time. So it's so many examples of astrology, right? Like this is one example over here. In this particular section, we are reading how the astrologers come and they predict that this person will be having qualities like, like you, like Brahma, like Shiva, like so many different examples are given that, how this person will be very magnanimous, he'll be very compassionate, he'll be very this, very that. They give so many. So this is one example. Then there is examples, many more are there, like Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj was an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. When he appeared, he appeared already in full, grown-up form. When he appeared, the astrologers started predicting that you will do this, you are so great, you are maintainer of the earth, you are this, you are that. And he says, I have still not done anything yet. Abhi se aap log itna glorify mat karo. But that is what. See, these astrologers are able to see what the person will do. In one sense, when you say someone is blessed, right? We keep hearing in the Bhagavatam, in the Puranas, about somebody giving blessing. That you will be blessed with so much, you'll get this. Or we hear about curse. Curse to bahut zyada suna hai sabne, right? Right? That someone got cursed. You shall die in 7 days. This will happen to you, that will happen to you. These are also like astrological predictions only. Why? because you have done something. You have done something which deserves punishment. And that punishment is going to come. They're just predicting ye punishment aane wala hai. The curse is also like an astrological prediction only. So we see Prithu Maharaj, we see Garga Muni, when at the birth of Krishna, when Krishna was born and he was transferred to the house of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, there also Garga Muni comes and he makes predictions. He talks about the Lord. He says what he was in previous 3 incarnations, what he came and now he's come. So he gives a detailed explanation about Krishna. Garga Muni, astrologer. Then we say in the case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when Lord Chaitanya came, his grandfather, I think maternal grandfather, Nilambar Chakravarti. Nilambar Chakravarti was also an astrologer. He also comes and he also makes predictions about the Lord. He says, this child Nimai, he will also be known as Vishwambhar, and so many different things he speaks about the Lord. Later on, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, another astrologer, when he's little grown up, one astrologer comes to meet him. And, that time he's still not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is still Nimai Pandit. So he asks the astrologer, tell me, what was I in my last life? And the astrologer, with great, he's very, he says, yes, show me your horoscope. And he sees the horoscope, and he sees the horoscope, his eyes become bigger and bigger. Right? He's saying, "Ye kya hai? What is this?" Because he's bamboozled by seeing what he sees. Because he sees that this is not an ordinary just Brahman who is, staying in Navadvip Mayapur. This is supreme. He says that you were supreme Lord in your previous life, in your supreme Lord now also, and he pays obeisances to him, right? So like that it is there. Then we see even, Prabhupada refers in many places, okay, so if you go through folio, there are some 450 references to astrology in folio. So many of Prabhupada's books, astrology is mentioned. Okay, so Prabhupada mentions the story of Sanatan Goswami when he was running away from Nawab Hussain Shah to meeting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when he is going, on the way he was staying in that, shelter for a night. And he had a servant with him. That servant had certain gold coins with him. Now, that owner of that place where they were staying, he was being extra sweet to Sanatan Goswami. कुछ ज़्यादा ही मतलब प्रेम से उनके साथ बात कर रहे थे. तो Sanatan Goswami suspected something wrong. कोई इतना ज़्यादा प्रेम से क्यों बात कर रहे हैं, right? As they say, if something is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. It's not true. Basically, कोई बहुत ज़्यादा ही जरूरत से ज़्यादा sweetness दिखा रहा है तो आपको सोचना चाहिए कुछ तो गड़बड़ है, right? So Sanatan Goswami, he said, he asked his servant that are you carrying any gold? By any chance, Sanatan Goswami had given away all the gold to get away from the jail, but this servant had kept, he said, yeah, I have 7 gold coins. So he said, just give it to this person. And that person says that, I had consulted an astrologer and he told me that, one sadhu is going to come, Sadhu Baba is going to come to stay and he has gold with him. So if you had not given me this gold, I was planning to kill you and take the gold. So Prabhupada makes the point that even these rogues like this believed in astrology and had access to astrology. Not so far back, 500 years back, right? So there also we see astrology. Prabhupada himself quotes, he said that about me when I was born, when Prabhupada was born, he says that an astrologer had predicted, in his mother's house, an astrologer had come and predicted that this person will have many followers and he will cross the ocean at the age of 70. And that's what happened, right? At the age of 70, Prabhupada crossed the 7 oceans and went to the United States, and there he started this ISKCON movement. So Prabhupada also makes the point that this, astrology is a science. It is a science. We may not know it, or the astrologers we are in touch with, unfortunately, may not know the science very well. But that doesn't make the science wrong. So Prabhupada also quotes in many places, like he says in 10.8.5, he says that it is the duty of a father, right? This is in that connection with Garga Muni, that episode. He says it is the duty of a father to understand the astrological position of his children and do what is needed for their happiness. allow it to sink in for a moment, right? Prabhupada is saying that it is a duty of a father to understand. Don't think, hum to Vaishnava hai, I don't believe in all this. It's okay. Your Param Vaishnava is telling you, it's all right, you can do this. Whenever a child is born, this is one of the things, Jataka karma, So this Jata karma, Ja means to be born. So at the time of birth, there is a certain karma to be done. That Jataka has to be created, that horoscope has to be made. Prabhupada said from that horoscope, one could determine whether this person is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Because according to the horoscope, one would be able to determine कि ये व्यक्ति, मतलब you may be born in family of anything, but if you have those qualities, you are a Brahmana. Guna karma vibhagashah, right? Chaturvarnam maya shishtam, guna karma vibhagashah. Krishna says that these varnas are created by me and divided based on guna and karma. So based on what guna you have inherited from previous life and what karma you are going to be doing, you are Brahman. So from the horoscope, it is possible to determine कि ये व्यक्ति कौन है. Isn't it amazing? Then he says, even for fixing marriages, he says that it is important that a person of a particular varna ideally gets married to a person in the same varna. He says that a man should get married to a girl of the same varna, not lower varna. Reverse is all right. Reverse is all right. A higher varna woman can get married to a lower varna man, but not the other way around. Shouldn't happen. So anyway, I'll not get into those details, but Prabhupada talks about using astrology even to fix marriages. He says that in the previous days, people would take horoscopes and they would match. That gun milke aa rahe hain kya? Gun milke aa rahe ka kya matlab hai? That their qualities are complementary. They are supporting each other. Otherwise, if one is, different, particular mentality, other is different mentality, then वो बोलते हैं ना 36 का आंकड़ा, ये हम लोग 36 का आंकड़ा बोलते हैं ना, ये 36 का आंकड़ा क्या है? ये यही है, that these 36 qualities that are there in each person, those 36 qualities are not matching between husband and wife. They will be at conflict for a long period. They'll keep fighting till they get tired of fighting, right? Then they say, जाने दो, अभी जो भी है, अभी क्या है. Right? They get tired and they move on in life. Till then they keep fighting. So this is what Prabhupada is saying. So even this astrology, study science of astrology, what is this? If you can just think for a moment, what is astrology? It is a science which is again something given by the mercy of the Lord. नहीं तो कहाँ से आया है? You imagine, right? That if someone just by looking at the time of birth, कि so and so Prabhu is born on 26th February at 9:20 AM on so and so year, बस इतना information दिया, बस, and वो आपका पूरा कुंडली पढ़ के बताता है. Have we experienced? Even the not so good astrologers are able to tell you at least what happened in your past. They may not be able to tell you your future very well, but past they're able to tell. Jadoo hai kya? Are they mind readers? No, it's a science. And this is another one of Krishna's unlimited mercy upon his children. कि अच्छा तुमको पता करना है तुम्हारा क्यों, why you are suffering. One of the questions we eternally ask, no, even in JOSD we ask, why am I suffering? Why you are suffering? बेटा काम ही ऐसे किए हैं पिछले जन्म में, हाँ, इतने तुमने अच्छे अच्छे कार्य किए हैं, बस उसका अभी भुगतो, right? And that horoscope gives the full चिट्ठा, कि भाई क्यों तुम ऐसे हो, why you are like this, right? It is very, very scientific. And through this mercy of the Lord by astrology, we can determine what is happening in our life and even what is likely to happen. It's quite amazing, quite esoteric, in one sense. So in the astrological science, the expert, what does he do? The expert astrologer who's been trained, they learn how to see the various signs, right, in a person in the chart. जिसका जो astrological chart होता है, chart is very standard. See, it's like a formula, you know, it's like a formula. It is, that's why it is science, because it is not that so and so person feels ऐसा होना चाहिए, so and so person feels ऐसा नहीं, ऐसा ही है. You're born at this time, this is where the sun was, this is where the moon was, this is where the different nakshatras was. Based on that तुम्हारा ये चार्ट बन गया. वो चार्ट तुम्हारा अभी वो ये जिंदगी के लिए यही चार्ट है. If you consult 500 astrologers, they'll give you the same chart. Same. Nothing changes. So it's a science. Science means something which you do it again and again, it behaves in the same way, it is science. So it's a science, right? So they see the chart, and in the chart unko dikhta hai. They are trained to see ki kya hai, you know. So my wife is learning now a little bit astrology. So she gave me a little bit of, you know, tidbits about what is this thing. So I'll just read out, right? It's very technical, but you know, it's very interesting also. There are 12 houses, ghar, right? 12 houses are there, and each house represents a different aspect of your personality and your life. Okay, थोड़ा technical है, but मैं just फटाफट भगाता हूँ इसको, right? That each house represents a specific aspect of your personality, your life, how much enjoyment, suffering, what kind of life you lead. That is determined by these different houses. For example, the first house represents your physical personality, right? तुम कैसे body वाले रहोगे, you know, कैसे body वाले रहोगे, कैसे तुम, you know, लंबे होगे, short होगे, you'll be beautiful, you'll be ugly. This is determined by the first house, your physical personality, your external behavior, how you will interact with people, how you're able. There are people who are able to interact with people, and there are people who are not, right? There's some people who prefer, नहीं, they look down. The moment someone looks at them, teacher class में उनकी तरफ देखते तो हम लोग नीचे देखते हैं. And it's not always that उनको आंसर पता नहीं है, उनको आंसर देना भी पसंद नहीं है. You know, हाथ ऊपर करके उनको वो नहीं, that's their nature, right? So external behavior, thought process. So physical appearance, external behavior, and thought process determined by the first house. Second house determines family. What kind of family you will have. You know, it's so important. We are what we are because of our families, right? Because if your parents are a particular way, they shape you whether you like it or not, because we are like mold as children. Parents give shape to that mold. That family is determined by this house. Second house, communication, wealth, right? Everyone wants to know wealth. So second house about wealth. So and so on and so forth. There are 12 houses like that. And then there are 12 zodiac signs. ये सब लोग जानते हैं. मेष, वृषभ, मिथुन, कर्क वगैरह वगैरह अलग-अलग 12 zodiac signs there. And then, okay, this is the last technical bit I'll tell you, and then I'll stop. There are 7 planets. There are 7 planets, and then there is Rahu and Ketu, and 27 nakshatra. चक्कर आ गया सबको? हाँ, मतलब कितना है? 12 हाउस है, 12 जोडियाक साइंस है, 27 नक्षत्र है, 7 प्लैनेट है, और उसके ऊपर 2 नोड्स है, राहु और केतु. इन सब का जो इंटरैक्शन है इन दीज हाउसेस. सो डिपेंडिंग ऑन द पोजीशन ऑफ दीज डिफरेंट planets and nodes and nakshatras at the time of your birth, वो किस घर में थे, उसके बेसिस पे आपका फ्यूचर डिसाइड हो गया. It's quite amazing, right? So you just imagine. So the interaction between the positions of these planets, nakshatras, and everything, they govern all aspects of your life. Now you may say, "Arey Prabhuji, हमने तो सुना है कि our life is governed by karma and everything." तो ये कहाँ से आया? इसका क्या connection है? We will try and discuss, okay? And I hope I don't go wrong. If there are any astrologers over here, मैं पहले से ही माफी मांगता. I'm not an astrologer, right? I'm just trying to present a few thoughts which hopefully will help us to understand. This horoscope was also, you know, suggested for giving the name of a child. You know, like right now in this section, we're reading about these Jataka, right? That these people who are assembled, they were giving the name also. They said that this person will be known as Vishnu Rat. Vishnu Rat means what? The one who was saved by Vishnu, was protected by Vishnu. He'll be known as Vishnu Rat. So, like that, they are also giving names. So, in horoscope, for example, there is a way to discover the first letter. कि ये व्यक्ति जो है is born at so and so time in these positions of the various planets and everything. Based on that, this letter will be beneficial to them. बोलते हैं ना, आप सबने सुना होगा ये. So if you give name as per that letter, वो सब अलाइन हो जाता है. आपने कुछ आजकल क्या फैशन है, नेम स्टार्टिंग विद ए आद्या, आव्या, आविष्कार वगैरह वगैरह, सब लोग ए से ही नाम देते हैं. There is no respect given to the fact that your name has to, align with what you are born with. Now, you may say that I don't believe in this. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You don't believe, that's all right. I don't believe in gravity. But try throwing something up, it will fall down. You don't believe, that doesn't mean it will not work. No. Gravity will work no matter what you do, because it's a law, it is science. Astrology is also like that. Unfortunately, because हमें एस्ट्रोलॉजी नहीं आता या हमारे एस्ट्रोलॉजर को भी बराबर से नहीं आता, that doesn't mean astrology is wrong, na? So it is like that. So now depending on the expertise that the astrologer has got in understanding all these interactions, 12 houses, different sun signs, the planets and this and that, nakshatra, iska jo interaction samajh ke, based on their expertise of these and their interactions and their intuition. What is intuition? Intuition means कहीं तो वो लोग आंख बंद करते हैं, they look at what they are seeing, जो दिख रहा है वो लोग को दिख रहा है, फिर वो लोग intuition use. Intuition क्या है? Intuition is connection with Gopinath, right? Intuition is connection with the Lord. They connect with whoever is their Ishta Devata, and from that they are able to tell you ki what is your, the best astrologers are like that. They don't just depend on the chart, they also use their intuition. They are able to predict exactly what is going to happen in a person's life and when. They're able to tell. It is like this, like a person, अभी मैं आपको उदाहरण कैसे दूं? It's like, आप लोग सब, everyone knows SL World. हाँ बोलने में कोई जाता नहीं है. हाँ, SL World मालूम है यार, सबको पता है. So SL World, if you go to SL World में क्या है? A person who is going there for first time, पहली बार कोई जा रहा है, बच्चा या एडल्ट जो भी गया है वहां पे, when they go to SL World, they are thinking that it's going to be an exciting, मजा आएगा, मजा करेंगे आज. So they go to SL World. अभी वो जाके पहले वो जो रोलर कोस्टर है उसमें जाके बैठ जाता है, राइट? अभी उसको कुछ मालूम नहीं है कि अभी क्या होने वाला है. He has no idea, right? But someone who is watching from a distance, जो लंबे से देख रहा है और जिसे पता है कि ये रोलर कोस्टर है, they know that this is roller coaster. First it is going to go for a long time, just straight up जाएगा, एकदम आराम से ऊपर जाएगा, और फिर जो ऐसा ऊपर नीचे चालू होएगा, उसमें मतलब जान निकल जाएगी, और उसके बाद जाके एंड में फटाक करके पानी में जाएगा और फिर पानी से निकल के पूरा भिगो के बाहर निकालेगा. So this is the end of the ride, right? So this person who's seeing from far away, he can see or she can see that this is what the ride is going to be like. Person who is sitting in the ride doesn't know, right? So same way, astrologer is also like that. Astrologer is able to see by looking at your roller coaster of life. आपका लाइफ का रोलर कोस्टर उसको वो हॉरोस्कोप में दिख जाता है. वो देख के उसको तुरंत समझ जाता है कि इसका ना शुरू में बहुत अच्छा एकदम स्टडी ऊपर जाएगा, एकदम मस्त एजुकेशन होगा, अच्छे कॉलेज से होगा, फिर अच्छे इंजीनियर बनेगा, MBA बनेगा, चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट बनेगी, ये बनेगी, जो भी है, राइट? उसको दिखेगा कि ऐसा ऊपर जा रहा है. एंड देन फिर जो एक बार नीचे गिरना चालू हुआ, एकदम पूरा नीचे जाके फिर वापस थोड़ा ऊपर गया, फिर और नीचे जाके फिर और थोड़ा ऊपर, उसको सब दिख रहा है. वो एक्सपर्ट एस्ट्रोलॉजर, ही कैन सी दैट हाउ द डिफरेंट प्लैनेट्स आर इंटरैक्टिंग and able to tell you there will be lots of ups and downs in your life. And at the end of it, you will get one nice cooling feeling. फाच करके पानी में जाओगे, वो आपका अच्छा पीरियड रहेगा when you came in touch with the devotees of Shri Radha Gopinath temple. Hari Bol. Right? So we can understand, इससे हम लोग समझ सकते हैं, an astrologer may be able to predict what your life is if they are able to read that roller coaster properly. Otherwise, it's a struggle. Just like, you see a doctor also, right? When you meet a doctor, कोई डॉक्टर से मिलते हैं, अरे डॉक्टर को क्या, वो कोई ज्योतिष नहीं है, राइट? कभी कभी डॉक्टर लोग डायलॉग मारते हैं ना, डॉक्टर को कोई आके पूछता है कि डॉक्टर साहब मैं कब तक जिंदा रहूंगा, बोलता है मैं ज्योतिष नहीं हूँ, right? But still the doctor is able to predict. They hesitate to tell you. They hesitate to tell you, right? When my mother was having cancer, she was in her terminal stages, stage 4. So at one point she stopped all the treatment. She said, "Bas ho gaya abhi, no more chemo, radiation, sab band." She prepared that, okay, now abhi to जाने का समय आ गया. So at that time, this was around September 2013, His Grace Vishwarup Prabhu, we had got in touch with them, with Bhaktivedanta Hospital, palliative care, for the last few months. So we had asked him, how much time does she have? And my mother was like looking really nice, healthy, अच्छी लग रही थी वो. And we asked, how much time does she have? He said 3-4 months. Like 3-4 months? मुझे तो believe नहीं हुआ. I didn't believe it. कैसे हो सकता है 3-4 months? She's looking like quite good. मतलब ऐसा कुछ उनका ऐसा symptoms नहीं था कि ऐसा अभी जाने वाली है, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था. No major pain, nothing. She was fine. He said 3-4 months. She died in 4 months. So even a doctor, see, when they see different symptoms, they're trained for this. उनको सिखाया गया है कि आपको ये सिम्टम दिख रहा है, मतलब डिक्लाइन हैज स्टार्टेड. आपको ये सिम्टम दिख रहा है, मतलब अभी ज्यादा समय नहीं है. ये सिम्टम दिख रहा है, मतलब कुछ दिनों की बात, अपने रिश्तेदारों को बुला लो, राइट? नो रियली, आई मीन, जोक्स अपार्ट, दिस इज व्हाट वी सी, राइट? डॉक्टर्स, दे गिव इंफॉर्मेशन इन इंस्टॉलमेंट्स. वो एक शॉट में नहीं बोलता है जाओ फैमिली वालों को बुला लो. इफ दे सी दैट अभी इनका रियली लास्ट स्टेज है, बिकॉज दे ट्रेन, उनको दिखता है वो सिम्टम. वैसे ही, सो एंड based on what symptoms they see, they are able to predict what is going to happen next. And then they'll give you some medication. They'll give you some medication कि आप ये दवाई लो, ये लो, वो लो, ये करने से आप ठीक हो जाओगे, ये करने से नहीं ठीक होगे. They give you some medication, right? But still, at one point, what do they say? इन्हें अभी दवाओं की नहीं, दुआओं की. क्यों? Because हमारा तो सिलेबस खत्म हो गया. अपने सिलेबस में जितना अपने को सिखाया था वो तो हमने सब कर लिया. अभी तो मुरली वाले के हाथ में है. We can't do anything, right? So if no matter how good your doctor is, no matter what treatment they are giving us, if Prakriti does not cooperate, material nature, mother nature does not cooperate, body doesn't heal. Because the Lord is not sanctioned. इसका ये समय है, इसको जाना है अभी. Right? So the person doesn't get better and dies. So same way, astrology also is a science which is able to look at the symptoms based on whatever is there in the horoscope, which, as I said, is a fixed thing. Based on when you are born, it's fixed. Looking at that, the person is able to predict कि क्या होगा इसके जीवन में. But still, finally, Supreme Lord prevails. Right? So as devotees, or at least sadhakas who are trying to be devotees, how do we look at astrology? So, based on what we see in our horoscope, अपने जो horoscope में हमको जो दिखता है, destiny can be predicted by a good astrologer who can tell you कि देखो आपका ऐसा ऐसा होने वाला है, आपका ये बुरा फेज आएगा, अच्छा फेज आएगा. They can give you. So we can be prepared mentally. Mentally we are prepared that ऐसा ऐसा अपने जीवन में आने वाला है. But we should understand as devotees, there is very little you can do to change it. It is like आपको बताया गया कि 13 तारीख को एक पिक्चर रिलीज होने वाली है. बट आपका उस पिक्चर पे कोई इन्फ्लुएंस नहीं है. You have to just watch, if at all. Don't watch, but if at all, you have to just watch it, because that movie is going to play out anyway. Whether you accept it or don't accept, that movie is going to play out in your life. So you're just mentally prepared. Know that there is little we can do to change our future based on our destiny. It is like we are born with a diary. जो डायरी रहता है ना, जो हम लोग हर साल नए साल में डायरी खरीदते हैं. Now imagine आप एक दुकान में गए, आपने एक डायरी खरीदा. वो डायरी खरीदा और घर जाके बड़े चाव से उसका प्लास्टिक निकाल के, भैया मेरा नाम वाम लिखूंगा. देखेगा नाम ऑलरेडी लिखा हुआ है, आप ही का नाम है. अरे ये क्या है? एंड देन यू टर्न अ फ्यू पेजेस, देखा हर पेज पे कुछ ना कुछ लिखा हुआ है. ये क्या सेकंड हैंड डायरी दे दिया मेरे को? नहीं, ये आपके जीवन का डायरी है, जिसके हर पन्ने पे कुछ लिखा हुआ है कि आज तुम गिर के हाथ टूट जाएगा और नेक्स्ट 3 महीने तुम सफर करोगे. लिखा है ऑलरेडी. 13th of January ये होने वाला है. So it is like a virtually filled up diary, our life, which all the pages something is written. All the pages. अभी आप बोले कि भरे हुए कैलेंडर में, भरे हुए डायरी में मैं कहाँ लिखूं? लिखने के लिए जगह ही नहीं है कुछ. So sometimes we see that we are living our life, we try to change certain things. Best of effort we put. You may be the richest person with all access to all astrologer, priests who will do this home, that home, सब है आपके पास, लेकिन कुछ कर नहीं पाते. Have you experienced, all of us, right? So this is what it is. Your diary is already filled up, my friend. Filled up, my friend. There's not much you can do. So what we are doing in the current life is trying to stuff something in a filled up diary. जो ऑलरेडी डायरी भरा हुआ है, उसमें आप कुछ डालने का कोशिश कर रहे हो. Based on what desire I have desire to achieve something. So I try to put something in that diary which is already full. And there's someone who's smiling. चलो ट्राई कर लो, कोई बात नहीं, ये लाइफ में तो नहीं होगा, right? So like that. So we have to understand that this is how it is. Our life, is like that diary which is filled. Now, what suffering, what enjoyment is going to come to you is predestined. प्रारब्ध वो होने ही वाला है. आप चाहे जो कर लो, होने वाला है, right? Even this body which we get, ये शरीर जो है, ये एक भेलपुरी है. भेलपुरी का क्या मतलब है? भेलपुरी में इंग्रेडिएंट वही होते हैं. इंग्रेडिएंट तो वही होते हैं, वही कुरमुरा, वही सेव, वही तीखा चटनी, मीठा चटनी, कैरी, आलू, टमाटर, यही तो है, राइट? बट हर भेलपुरी वाले का भेल अलग होता है. सेम भेलपुरी वाले का एक बार भेल खाओ, दूसरा भेल अगर अपना वाइफ के प्लेट में से भेल खाया, उसका अलग टेस्ट होता है. क्यों? क्योंकि उन्होंने क्वाइटली बोला है मेरा थोड़ा मीठा बनाओ, हाँ, और किसी और ने, बेटे ने बोला है मेरा तीखा बनाओ, तुम तीखा बनाओ. एंड भेल वही है, लेकिन किसी का तीखा है, किसी का मीठा है, किसी का मिक्स है. मिक्स बनाओ, एकदम मीडियम बनाओ, राइट? सो आवर बॉडी इज लाइक भेलपुरी. इंग्रेडिएंट्स वही है, बेस्ड ऑन द 3 गुणा, सत्व गुणा, रजो गुणा, तमो गुणा. Our body is a mixture of these 3 gunas, right? How it is determined कि किसके बॉडी में सत्व गुणा ज्यादा, किसके बॉडी में रजो गुणा ज्यादा, किसके बॉडी में तमो गुणा ज्यादा? How is it determined? Based on what we have done in our previous lifetimes. Previous lifetimes, what choices we made, what kind of people we associated with, what gunas we associated with. Our karma we did in goodness, we did in passion, we did in tamogun. Based on that, our next body is being prepared. Right now, what we are doing is, right now we are all sitting here in front of Shri Radha Gopinath. हमारा अगला शरीर ऐसा कुक हो रहा है, वो ऐसा बर्तन में कुक हो रहा है, लो गैस पे, बन रहा है वो. So we have to be clear that what choices we make in this life is determining what's going to happen in our next life, right? It's very scientific. So based on our previous life karma, in the association of different modes. You did your karma in mode of goodness, majority mode of goodness. This life, you will be born with a body, a family, a situation which is in mode of goodness. There are some people, no, आप उनको कितना भी हिलाओ, they are very शांत, very peaceful. उनको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, एकदम शांत. कोई उनको गाली भी दे, उन्हें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. They are very peaceful. They feel sorry for you, and that person gets more agitated. अरे मैं गाली दे रहा हूँ, इसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है. Because he is in mode of passion, but the person who is receiving is in mode of goodness, not affected. Maybe he is agitated, बेचारा, must be in some trouble. उसी लिए गाली दे रहा है, right? So this is mode of goodness. How does it come? कहाँ से आ रहा है ये? Because of associating with people in the mode of goodness. That's how we come. Similarly, you know, like some devotees give the example. It's like you bought आपको एक second class train ticket का, you know, second class डब्बे का ticket मिला है. You got in a train, you got ticket of second class. When you're born with that ticket. Right? Now with that ticket, you can't determine कि मेरे इर्द गिर्द कौन बैठे रहेंगे. टिकट लिया है, ये डब्बा है, अभी ये डब्बे में जो लोग आते हैं, भाई मेरे को ऐसा लोग के साथ तो बैठने का है. Not allowed. You can't determine that. Whatever comes in that डब्बा, you have to accept it. You can't say, नहीं मेरे को अभी फर्स्ट क्लास में जाने का. नहीं, टीसी बोलता है फर्स्ट क्लास में जगह नहीं है, चल इधर ही बैठ अभी. Right? So this is how it works, right? So we don't get to choose our co-passengers. We don't get to choose our experience. We don't get to choose anything. So you have to understand that this is what destiny is like. It's very tight. It's like a diary with all the pages filled up already, right? So this combination of our prarabdha and the gunas, all these come together to become a blueprint. Based on what you are going to, आपके इस ये जो 90 पेजेस हैं of January, February, March of 2023, ये जो 90 पेजेस हैं आपके डायरी में, उसमें कौन से स्टार्स, कौन से प्लैनेट्स, कौन से पोजीशन में है, आपके चार्ट के हिसाब से आपको या तो लाफे पड़ेंगे या तो बहुत प्यार मिलेगा. Right? And there's not much we can do about it. So you have to understand, an astrologer is able to read this. That's what is interesting, right? So the combination of guna karma decides your body and decides your destiny. And the combination of the planets, the houses, the sun signs, they are like indicators which are shining. And the astrologer is able to read कि ये shine हो रहा है, मतलब अभी ये होने वाला है. You get it? You understand? So they can predict, they can see. They see it like an equation. You know, those who are mathematicians, they'll understand, who have learned mathematics, they see it as an equation. कि this plus this equals to this. 2y plus x is equal to 34. दिख गया, clear. And but they don't have the power to change it. They can predict it, they can't change it. You know, like a personal example I'll give. मेरा life में, I remember early in Krishna consciousness, I had just come. One devotee again, right, said he reads palms. मैं तुरंत मेरा हाथ देखना. He looked at my hand and said, "तो अभी जिंदा कैसे है?" He said, jokingly बोला उसने. He said, "Your lifeline is so short." This is 20 years back, 25 years back. He said, "Lifeline is so short, तो जिंदा कैसे है?" He was also like surprised, you know, कैसा possible है? And I had an accident in 1998 at the age of 24. Second chance. I am also like Ajamil only. Second chance. I had a second chance. So we have to understand that he was able to predict that कुछ तो यार तेरे पास ज़्यादा time नहीं है. But there were also several astrologers who saw my horoscope, because my parents had come into bhakti and they saw my horoscope and they told कि तेरे horoscope में भक्ति लिखा ही नहीं है. You will not become devotee. They predicted. 3 people, not 1, 3 different astrologers. तेरे चार्ट में भक्ति नहीं है, नहीं होगा तेरे से. Which is a fact. Actually अभी भी नहीं हुआ मेरे से. But reality is, by the grace of my mother, father's prayers, by the grace of the Vaishnavas, by their blessings, here I am. So astrology in one case predicted correctly, another case predicted wrongly. So we can't really say for sure, right? So while we take this science of astrology seriously, we understand it's a science, we take it seriously, but we also understand that through the process of bhakti, through the process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Through this process of bhakti, the lines on our hands are changed. Why? Because he starts deciding, चलो इसको थोड़े एक्स्ट्रा देते हैं लाफे, हाँ, जो 3 साल बाद आने वाले थे थोड़ा उनको आगे ऐसा एडवांस में लेके आते हैं. एंड समटाइम्स द हैप्पीनेस विच वाज इन योर ये ही मे पुश इट आउट, नहीं ही इज नॉट रेडी फॉर इट. अभी देंगे तो एकदम वो सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन में चला जाएगा, इसको थोड़ा बाद में दो, राइट? सो द लॉर्ड टेक्स ओवर, right? Whatever, through the process of bhakti, the lines can change, the influence of the planets can change, the modes that are affecting us will change, our karma will change. Why? They are all controlled by Jagadish. They're all controlled by Parameshwara Krishna. All of them are reporting to him ultimately. Daiviyesha gunamai mama maya duratya. The Lord decides, and therefore everything can be changed by Krishna. And lastly, even the Supreme Lord, see how we can understand. Supreme Lord who says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am knower of past, present and future. He says, I know. Bhavishyani cha bhutani, he knows everything. So that person who is the master of all knowledge, including astrology, that person, he did not predict, Pandavas, your 5 sons are going to be killed by Ashwathama, jara bacha ke rakho. He did not predict. He did not predict that Ashwathama ko maar do, varna wo wapas Parikshit पे अटैक करने वाला है. He didn't predict. He saved. He saved Parikshit. जय श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ भगवान की जय. He saved Parikshit. He didn't save the 5 sons of Pandava. The Lord is inexplicable. We can't understand his plans, right? He allows these circumstances in the lives of devotees. He allows it to happen. Even for his purest and most surrendered of devotees, he gives them this suffering. Why? He gives it because it gives an opportunity to surrender to Krishna. Whether everything is going nicely, काय का surrender? एकदम मजा चल रहा है. But when everything starts going south, वो roller coaster में नीचे जा रहा है और ऊपर ही नहीं आ रहा है. अरे क्या ऊपर कब आएगा? नीचे ही जा रहा है. मतलब पाताल में पहुंच गया, अभी तक ऊपर नहीं आ रहा है. So that is when we surrender. So the Lord sometimes he creates these circumstances in the life of his devotees as per our karma only. He will not create something. अपना जो कर्मा है, जो कोटा में है लिखा हुआ है, as per that he creates opportunities for us to surrender to him, just like Uttara surrendered. Uttara surrendered, my Lord, please save my child. I don't mind dying, but please save my child who is the Uttaradhikari of the Pandavas. Please save. So while we may use, to conclude, while we may use astrology to understand what is happening in our lives or even predict what is likely to happen, we should not take refuge in it. Don't take shelter in it. Take shelter of Shri Radha Gopinath. Shri Radha Gopinath will help us to get out of the cycle of guna, karma, astrology, ये सब बंधन से निकलने का मौका देंगे to a world where there is no anxiety. Vaikuntha, Shri Goloka Vrindavan. जय श्रीमद् भागवत महापुराण की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रील गुरुदेव की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी. Any questions? You can take maybe one question, 1 or 2 questions quickly. Any questions, comments, anybody? Yes, Prabhu. एस्ट्रोलॉजी का सवाल मत पूछना बस.
प्रभु जी, आपने बोला कि आपने बोला कि मेरा जो नेक्स्ट ईयर का जो ईयर बुक है वो ऑलरेडी फिल्ड है, तो मेरे जो एक्शंस हैं वो ऑलरेडी जो अगर फिल्ड हैं तो मेरे नेक्स्ट बर्थ के जो एक्शंस रहेंगे, आपने जो वो पॉइंट मीन्स पुट किया है, तो वो कैसे चेंज हो रहे हैं? क्योंकि एक्शंस ऑलरेडी प्री डिफाइंड है ना.
नहीं, एक्शंस प्री डिफाइंड नहीं है, आपका सर्कमस्टेंसेस प्री डिफाइंड है. आपके लाइफ में क्या सर्कमस्टेंसेस आएंगे, आपको कितना हेल्थ रहेगा, आपका कितना वेल्थ रहेगा, आपका फैमिली कैसा रहेगा, आपका ये सब चीज़ इन अ गिवन टाइम आप कैसे सर्कमस्टेंस में रहोगे, गरीब रहोगे, अमीर रहोगे, जो भी है, ये प्री डिफाइंड है. सर्कमस्टेंस इज प्री डिफाइंड. हाउ वी रिएक्ट टू दो सर्कमस्टेंसेस, दैट इज अ फंक्शन ऑफ आवर गुणा. अभी जैसे कि अगर किसी ने आके आपको ऑफर किया, प्रभु सिर्फ आप 2,000 रुपये दो, आपको मैं इसको 2 करोड़ बना के दे देता हूं. राइट? किसी ने आपको ऑफर किया, अभी आपके पास ये सर्कमस्टेंस आ गया, एंड मे बी दैट पर्सन विल एक्चुअली डू ऑल्सो. बट अगर आपके डेस्टिनी में नहीं है कि आप इतने आसानी से 2 करोड़ कमाओ, 2,000 नहीं, बोल चलो आप 20 लाख दो, मैं उसको 10 करोड़ करके दे देता हूं 5 साल के अंदर. बराबर? अभी आपके डेस्टिनी में नहीं है कि आप करोड़पति बनो, तो आपके पास वो 20 लाख ही नहीं होंगे जो आप उसको आप देना चाहते हो, लेकिन आप दे नहीं पाओगे. या फिर आपके पास 20 लाख हैं, लेकिन आपके डेस्टिनी में है नहीं कि आप करोड़पति बनोगे, तो आप उनको बोलेंगे नहीं नहीं, आई डोंट बिलीव, मेरे को नहीं करना है, बिकॉज आपका गुण वैसा है. So what actions we take are determined by what guna we have acquired from previous life and this life. But what circumstances we are in at any given point of time, that is determined by previous life karma and desires.
And my current action will lead to the next life.
Next, yeah. So based on a particular circumstance, now there may be a circumstance, Sunday morning है. Sunday morning में चला, Sunday तो यार आज आराम करने का दिन है. That is a circumstance, the whole world follows this circumstance. But if we choose कि नहीं, मुझे तो भागवतम आना है, मैंने सही चूज किया, आके राधा गोपीनाथ का दर्शन किया, आज ये हरियाली टीज स्पेशल दर्शन, this is a darshan, the 3rd day of Shravan Mahina, where very beautifully, because everything is green in Vrindavan at this time. So everything is very beautiful, green, lush green. So वैसे ही आज दर्शन बनाया. So आप आए, आपने ये चॉइस किया, आपने दर्शन लिया, आपने भगवान को अप्रिशिएट किया, उनके ब्यूटी को, उनके ड्रेस को, आपने स्पिरिचुअल प्रोग्रेस कर लिया, बिकॉज यू मेड द राइट चॉइस. सो आवर चॉइसेस डिटरमाइन आवर फ्यूचर, एंड आवर चॉइसेस डिटरमाइन व्हाट फ्यूचर सर्कमस्टेंसेस कम. ओके, हरे कृष्णा. यस प्रभु. Mike. Last question, we'll stop here.
Hari Bol Prabhuji. First of all, thank you for wonderful lecture. My question is that Prabhuji, I have 2 questions. First question is, जैसे कि आपने बोला कि एस्ट्रोलॉजी एज अ साइंस, तो एस्ट्रोलॉजी को हम कैसा मतलब कंपेयर कर सकते हैं साइंस के साथ, क्योंकि साइंस के तो कुछ लिमिट्स होते हैं ना, और एस्ट्रोलॉजी तो मतलब आपने बोला कि जैसा आपने बोला कि वो अनलिमिटेड, मतलब क्या हो सकता है क्या नहीं हो सकता, और साइंस मतलब तो एक कोई चीज़ पे बेस होके साइंस कर सकते हैं ना, तो ये दोनों का कैसे कंपेयर मतलब कर सकते हैं इसको.
So जैसे साइंस में क्या है, व्हाट इज द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ साइंस? इन साइंस वी से दैट देयर आर सर्टेन रूल्स दैट आर गवर्निंग, राइट? देयर आर सर्टेन रूल्स दैट आर गवर्निंग phenomena in material nature. That is what is science. If you know what are those rules, we can explain why certain things behave certain way. Why a bird is able to fly. Science can explain it, but science can't create a bird. Right? So science is a study of the way phenomena happen in nature, and predicting that if these are the laws that are governing, and they always govern, no matter what happens, law of aerodynamics decides whether a bird can fly or like a penguin will be on the floor. Right? That's what science is about. So there are certain set of rules which are consistent. कुछ भी हो जाए यही rule apply होगा. That is science. Astrology में भी वही हो रहा है. That there are certain set of rules. You and I may not know them, but there are certain sets of rules. Like I explained, right? There are so many planets, there are houses. So based on particular combination of this, the rule tells us that this person will be like this. ये पर्सन बोल बच्चन होगा, ये पर्सन चुप बैठा रहेगा, ये पर्सन मुक्का होगा, जो भी है. That reading those things, it will accurately predict what the person does. Now, if I am not expert in reading, लाइक आई एम नॉट, देयर मेनी पीपल हु स्टडी साइंस बट दे आर नॉट एक्सपर्ट. ऐसा भी होता है ना, बहुत सारे लोग साइंस सीखते हैं लेकिन सीख नहीं लेते, सिर्फ ग्रेजुएट हो जाते हैं साइंस में लेकिन आता नहीं है, राइट? सो दे आर नॉट एबल टू सी, दे सी कुछ प्लांट में कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, दे आर नॉट एबल टू, उनको प्रिंसिपल्स मालूम नहीं है, तो वो लोग ऐसे ही कुछ जुगाड़ करते हैं टू सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम, राइट? सेम वे अगर एस्ट्रोलॉजर को एस्ट्रोलॉजी का साइंस बराबर से नहीं मालूम है, ऊपर ऊपर से पढ़ के वो कुछ बताएगा, यू विल फील कि एस्ट्रोलॉजी सब बेकार है. नो, द साइंस इज परफेक्ट, द लर्नर ऑफ इट हैज नॉट परफेक्टेड हिज और हर लर्निंग ऑफ इट. So it's a science in the sense that it is also consistent, it follows certain rules. To that extent, it's a science, it's comparable. Okay? सेकेंड क्वेश्चन प्रभु जी पूछ रहे हैं, फुल्ली सरेंडर कैसा करना चाहिए? ये थोड़ा बड़ा सवाल हो गया, बट द एसेंस ऑफ फुल सरेंडर, okay, if you want to know how to learn full surrender, associate with devotees. You know, associate with devotees, follow what they are doing, and keep your ego aside. अपना जो ego है, जो हमें पता है नहीं 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 मैं ऐसा सब नहीं कर सकता है, मेरे को ही नहीं जमता है, वो सब बाजू में रख दो. Just surrender to devotees, do what they are doing, that is surrender at our level. देन देर आर, उसमें बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं, बट शुरुआत वहीं से होता है. यू नो, साधु संग भजन क्रिया, अधो श्रद्धा. फर्स्ट हैव फेथ दैट ये लोग इतना सब भगवत गीता भागवतम से कोट कर रहे हैं इस्कॉन में, चोर तो नहीं लगते, है ना? सो थोड़ा फेथ रख के हम लोग शुरू करते हैं प्रोसेस. उसके बाद क्या करते हैं? साधु संग भजन क्रिया. सो कम इन द एसोसिएशन ऑफ सेंटली पीपल लाइक दिस एंड डू भजन क्रिया. Slowly but surely we will understand what surrender means. ठीक है? हरे कृष्णा. श्रीमद् भागवत महापुराण की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रील गुरुदेव की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी. हरि हरि बोल.